Hey guys, this is Miss Arlequin, and in today's lesson we are going to be crafting the introductory paragraph for our performance-based task essay. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you either have a blank Google Drive document open where you can begin typing up your introductory paragraph, or if you prefer, you might want to first just draft your introductory paragraph on a sheet of loose leaf paper. As you go through the lesson video, there's going to be stopping points, or I'm going to ask you to write certain parts of your introduction, and then when the video's over, you can take what you've written and type it into the document. It's really up to you. Either option is fine. If you do decide to draft it on loose leaf, you should keep the loose leaf paper as part of your writing process and attach it with your final draft packet at the end of this project.
All right, so in previous lessons, we've talked about the structure of an essay and how the structure of an essay can be compared to an hourglass. And so since we are focusing on the introduction today, we are focusing on the top part of the hourglass. So we're going to be talking about the engaging lead and connecting our lead to our thesis. We've already written our thesis statements for this assignment. And so what we're really looking to do today is to write the sentences that are going to come before the thesis and lead into them. All right, so what should an introductory paragraph do? Well, in general, an introduction has three main purposes. It should get your reader's attention and interest so that they want to read your writing. It should identify the specific topic of your writing. So by the time your reader gets to the end of that first paragraph, they know specifically what the rest of the essay is going to be about. And you want to begin with a general introduction to your overall topic. You want to connect the general introduction to the more focused thesis or the point of the essay.
So the first sentence or sentences of your essay should always be the engaging lead, which is also called by many people the hook. It's called the hook because it is supposed to hook your reader in, kind of drag them into your essay, make them want to keep reading. So there's a lot of different strategies for hooking your reader. You can start with an open-ended question. You could begin with a quote. Usually what works best is to choose a quote from a famous person that relates to your topic. You can start with an imaginative scenario where you ask your reader to imagine themselves in the character's shoes. You could start with an interesting fact. This is really good for informative essays, particularly things related to history or science. Or you could write general statements about your topic, your basic thoughts and feelings about it, how others feel or think about the topic, and then slowly start to get more specific. So if I was going to write about a love story and the theme of that particular text, I might start out by just writing about love in general, what it is, how people feel about it. And then that'll actually introduce into the specific characters who are in love in the text I'm writing about. These are just some examples of leads. You can find a lot more examples in the Google Drive Student Resource folder, or even just by doing a Google search for hooks or engaging leads, specifically writing hooks or writing leads.
All right, a lead should not be too specific to the topic you're writing about, which means you don't necessarily want to mention the author's name or the story title or specific characters' names in your first few sentences. And you don't want your lead to be unrelated to your thesis and the details that are going to be in your body paragraphs. So if I was writing an essay about Tuesday the other June, and I was going to write about bullying, I wouldn't necessarily start my essay by saying, imagine you and your mother had a close relationship and your father left. Because even though that is a detail from the story that my reader could connect to, it's not an important detail related to the theme of bullying, which is what my essay is really going to be about. To begin your lead, the first thing you want to think about is, what is your essay going to be about? What are the specific topics? And this includes the book title, the author, and what your specific topic or point of the essay is going to be. So if I was going to write for this particular task in Unit 2 about the strategies that an author used, and I was going to use the chaser as my text, then I know that my specific topics are the chaser, the author John Collier. I know that he uses irony, so that's a strategy that I'm going to focus as my body paragraphs and my text evidence. And I might talk about how the irony is used to develop the theme of love, and how maybe the irony also develops suspense. And so these are specific topics that I'm going to go into detail about in my body paragraphs. Now, what I can do is I can use different strategies, and I'm going to pick the one that I like the best, clearly, or the one I think is more appropriate for this topic. And based on those specific topics, irony, suspense, love, the chaser, I'm going to try to come up with a general way to introduce them. So the first strategy is questioning the reader. And it's engaging to the reader because it makes them think of an answer, and it activates their prior knowledge on the topics that my essay is going to be about. So for this essay, I could write something like, what's the difference between love and obsession? Is it love to always worry about another person? Is it love to feel jealous if they talk to another man or woman? Is it love to want to know every little thing they say? Or is that obsession? Notice that I am introducing some of the themes of the chaser. And these are themes that I'm going to discuss in my body paragraph related to irony. But I haven't mentioned the story title yet or the characters. I could try the imaginative scenario strategy. And this is a really engaging strategy because it makes the reader of your essay place themselves into a situation related to the topic of the essay, and it helps them make a connection. Making a connection is a really important thing for a reader to do. It keeps them interested. Imagine you buying someone's love or forcing someone to love you. You probably wouldn't want that, but most people would do whatever just to have the person they love them back. Buying someone's love isn't true love. True love is being with someone that loves you, and you love that person back. All right, so you might have noticed that I am using second person, which is a good point of view to use when you're doing the imaginative scenario, again, because you really want your reader to make a connection. And once again, I have not mentioned Alan's name or the name of the story yet. I will eventually, but this is about the general engaging lead, getting them interested. All right, the final example that I'm going to apply to my chaser essay is giving a definition and a general discussion of the topic. And this is engaging because it gives the reader background information they need in order to understand the essay. So if I thought I was writing about a topic that my audience might not know that much about, or if I thought that there was some really basic information they have to have in their minds in order to understand what I'm going to talk about in the body paragraphs, well, then this would be the strategy that I would pick. Love can't be brought. Love is an affection that comes from the heart. When you are in love, you feel it. Love isn't forced. Love doesn't come in special little packages like most of the things we have. There can be a potion to make a person love you, but it won't be love. It will be obsession, forced, and non-affectionate.
All right, so at this point, I would like for you to pause the video and to take a few minutes to write your engaging lead. You can use one of the strategies that I just introduced you to in the video, or if you would like to look for some other engaging lead strategies, you can go into Google Drive and look in the student resource folder that I've shared with everybody. There are a lot of engaging lead strategies there, some of the ones I went over in the video and some additional ones. And so you can use any of those strategies or just use one from the video. And remember, you're either typing your lead directly into Google Drive or you're writing it on your loose leaf paper and you're going to type it at the end of the video.
All right, so now that we've written our lead sentences, we're going to move on to the next sentence or sentences of our paragraph. And these are the sentences where you are beginning to connect your lead to your thesis by introducing the specific topic of your essay. So what you're basically looking to do here is you're looking to mention the author, the titles of the text that you're writing about, or perhaps just the genre that you're going to be writing about. And which one you do kind of depends on what you're writing about, what the specific task is. So when you're connecting your lead to your thesis, you want to be more specific. Remember, the hourglass is getting a little more narrow as we go down the introductory paragraph. You want to avoid saying my essay is about. That is not appropriate for formal writing. This is something that students do when they're first learning to write essays. I kind of think of a sentence like this as like the training wheel when you're learning to ride a bike. Now that we're older and we've written essays for a few years now in school, we should not need to use this phrase. And again, you're going to start connecting your general introduction to the more specific points you're writing about. Now, for my sample essay, the specific topics are the title of the story and the theme I'm writing about, and for our performance task, our other specific topic is the writing strategies that the author uses. Now, there's a couple of ways that we can write these context sentences. So there are 3 strategies. The first one is you can write a sentence where you give background on the author you are writing about. And what you're basically doing is you're mentioning the author's name and you're mentioning a fact about them as a writer. So the types of stories they write would usually be a good connecting sentence. Langston Hughes, an African-American poet, often writes poems about the struggles African Americans go through. And so if I'm writing about one of his specific poems that is about an African American experience and a struggle, this would be a slow introduction to that specific text. So right here, you have a sentence frame that you can use whenever you want to use this strategy for your connecting sentence. Blank is an author who writes stories. This part can change depending on what you're writing about. For example, I was writing about poems, so I said poems instead of stories. If I was writing about a nonfiction author, then it might be a different genre. And here you say what they usually write it about. This is a perfect strategy when you're writing about multiple texts from the same author. And clearly, this is only a strategy you can use if you happen to know a lot about your author. For example, I don't really know a lot about John Collier, so I can't really write about the types of stories he writes. So for my essay, I'm not going to choose this strategy. A second strategy is you can introduce the specific story you're going to be writing about. And this is a perfect strategy for when you're writing about one text only. You mention the author, the title, and you give a brief summary of what the story is about. In Langston Hughes' poem Harlem, the speaker describes his feelings on giving up on your dreams. A brief little gist of what that poem is about. Once again, this is the sentence frame that you could use whenever you wanted to apply this particular connection strategy. And the third strategy is introducing just in a more general way, not the specific story, not the specific author, but just saying that you're going to be talking about stories or poems or articles or texts. So you're introducing that this is a literary essay. And so an example would be, there are many texts that deal with the theme of dreams. And then my second sentence, which is still part of my connection, would be me mentioning Langston Hughes and Harlem. And I actually could probably even make this my thesis. So here you have on the right side the sentence frame that you could use if you wanted to apply this strategy. And this is a perfect strategy to use when you're writing about more than one author or more than one type of text.
All right, guys, so now it's time to take what you've just learned about writing connecting or transition sentences. Choose one of the connecting strategies that we just went over to write the next few sentences of your intro paragraph. As soon as you're done, you're going to take the thesis statement from your index card, the one that you wrote for last night's homework, and you're going to add it to the end of your introduction.